On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a look back at the incredible events that led up to where we are now and what is to come. So you guys are going to want to stick around and watch this. Enjoy.
Well, I don't think greed is good, and as you know, they did the famous film where with Michael Douglas, Wall Street, where greed is good, but that is not the case. I mean, I think greed is bad. I think that you have to enjoy what you're doing. If you enjoy what you're doing, it'll be successful, generally. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it's almost never going to be successful. Well, I think that rich men, I guess, are always targets. Rich people are always targets. And I think that there's a level of celebrity that I've attained, which has become so ridiculous now that it makes me an even bigger target. So it always bothers me, but there's really not much I can do about it. I believe strongly in getting even. If somebody has hurt you, if somebody's gone out of their way to hurt you, I think that if you have the opportunity, you should certainly go out of your way to do a number of them. And I've had more criticism about that one statement in my book than any other statement.
I've never seen in my lifetime or in modern political history any presidential candidate trying to discredit the elections and the election process before votes have even taken place.
The November 2018 elections coming up and the steps that we need to take to make sure that the Russian influence effort that bedeviled our 2016 election is not replicated in the 2018 election.
After months of speculation, FBI Director Comey testifying under oath today, unloading powerful public declarations, given the agency's policy not to comment on ongoing investigations, except under extraordinary circumstances, confirming today the federal investigation into the Trump campaign's alleged ties to Russia.
From everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people, that you are willing to spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race.
Despite the unanimous conclusion of the 17 entities that make up the U.S. intelligence community that the Russian government sought to sow discord in our political process and undermine the Clinton campaign, there is a seeming hesitancy to dig too deeply into possible collusion between the Trump organization and the Russians, and to ascribe too much to Moscow lest it call into question the legitimacy of the outcome of the 2016 election. As I have been saying for several weeks, I hope that our committee can transcend partisan division and work together in the coming months to produce a report to which we can all attach our names. This is a difficult test for Congress in an era when the legislative process has too often failed to fulfill even its most routine duties.
What is the reaction of the Clinton campaign to these DNC leaked emails suggesting that top officials, including the CFO there, were actively discussing ways to hurt Bernie Sanders in the primaries?
Well, I think the DNC needs to look into this and take appropriate action, and I'm sure that they will. What's disturbing to us is that experts are telling us that Russian state actors broke into the DNC, stole these emails, and other experts are now saying that the Russians are releasing these emails for the purpose of actually helping Donald Trump. I don't think it's coincidental that these emails were released on the eve of our convention here, and that's disturbing.
This answer is very simple and is what no one is really saying in this room, which is part of the reason active measures have worked in this U.S. election is because the commander-in-chief has used Russian active measures at time against his opponents.
Good evening. For more than a year, the President of the United States has claimed the Russia story is a hoax. Now, a stunning indictment says it is not, no matter what the President has been saying again and again and again.
According to what are apparently high-level sources within the Department of Justice, in 2017, the FBI secretly began an investigation into whether the president is in fact a Russian agent. The FBI apparently believed that President Trump could be a one-man sleeper cell, personally taking direct orders from his handlers in Moscow and working from within the Oval Office to subvert this country. The FBI said they believed that could have happened, so they spied, apparently, on the President of the United States. Well, shocking doesn't even begin to describe this story. Nothing like this has ever happened in this country. These allegations are literally without precedent. That is not overstatement. And by the way, the allegations are not true. The FBI did not find that Donald Trump is a Russian agent. No charges were ever filed against him. None will be. But an equally important question remains unanswered. How did this happen? Deciding that a sitting president should be investigated for treason is not a small thing. Officials within the FBI had to push for this investigation and then marshal evidence to justify it. Leaders at the very highest levels of the agency had to sign off on the whole thing. All of that happened. But on what grounds exactly? That's what we would need to know in order to understand this. Well, thanks to the Times story, we have some sense of the answer. And if you're imagining a secret transmitter covered in Cyrillic script discovered hidden in the Lincoln bedroom, no, think again. There were no cloak and dagger clues in this case, apparently. The FBI assumed that Donald Trump might be a Russian agent not because of anything he did in secret, but because of things he said in public, very public, standing on a stage, on camera, while running for president. Here's one of them.
There's nothing I can think of that I'd rather do than have Russia friendly as opposed to the way they are right now. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along, as an example, with Russia? I'm all for it.
That was then candidate Trump speaking at a press conference in Florida at Doral in July of 2016. According to the FBI, the words you just heard are evidence that Trump may have betrayed this country. That's their view. But there's another way to look at those words. Maybe Trump is right. Russia is a nuclear-armed power on the other side of the planet. It does not have the power to invade the United States. It can't close international shipping lanes. It does not seriously threaten our key allies like Japan or Great Britain. Is there some reason, then, that we should inherently be in conflict with Russia? Is there, moreover, vast public support in this country for fighting a proxy war in Syria with the Kremlin? And how many American parents are anxious to send their kids to die for the territorial integrity of Ukraine, an issue that we're supposed to think is very important? Well, outside a few neighborhoods in Washington, not very many people, it turns out. So Trump did raise a fair question at that press conference in 2016. In Washington, saying that out loud is considered treason.
Vladimir Putin policies almost being parroted by Donald Trump. You had Trump say only nice things about Putin. He never spoke ill about Russia.
Never spoke ill about Russia. That's the evidence a United States senator holds up to prove that the president may be working for our enemies. So maybe Trump does like Russia. Who knows? By the way, he's allowed to if he wants to. It doesn't make him evil. It just means he disagrees with prevailing orthodoxy in D.C., and that's okay. We're supposed to have spirited debates over questions like this, but no longer. Policy differences are now criminal offenses. Today on CNN, professional dumb person Max Boot listed 18 reasons that the president may be a Russian spy. If you looked at the reasons, a lot of them turned out to be political positions that Boot just doesn't agree with. Firing Jim Comey, pulling out of Syria, criticizing the European Union. And this is our favorite one, we're quoting, supporting populists. So the Permanent War Caucus in Washington has succeeded in criminalizing dissent from their agenda. That's what this is. And by the way, if it were happening in a less developed country, we'd know exactly what to call it. It's an attempted coup. A political leader gets elected on a platform that law enforcement agencies don't like. So those agencies try to put him in jail. It happens all the time in other places. Now it's happening here. Former FBI lawyer and anti-Trump activist Lisa Page described the FBI's thinking in her closed-door testimony before Congress. Russia is the most dangerous country in the world, Page reportedly said, because Russia works to, quote, weaken our ability, America's ability, and the West's ability to spread our democratic ideals, end quote. So spreading our democratic ideals, as with the Iraq War, is now the most important thing that America does, the one thing we must defend at all costs. When did FBI lawyers start talking like neocon propagandists? No wonder Max Boot is on board with this. Our entire media and political classes are with Max Boot and Lisa Page, too. They have lost their minds. Does every show on cable news have the same writer? Well, yeah, it's the DNC. You've heard the script so many times that it's like background noise, muzak in an elevator. We never pause to ask the obvious question, which is, does it make sense? Does what they're saying logically add up, that Trump is doing the bidding of Russia? I don't know. Let's assess it just for a second. If you were Russia, let's say you're Vladimir Putin, how would you try to undermine American interests? Well, you'd probably try to get America stuck in costly, expensive foreign wars. You'd look at Iraq and Afghanistan, you would say, those wars have made America much weaker. Why not try and replicate that experience in, say, Syria and Libya? You might encourage America to do that. You might also encourage the U.S. to adopt a self-destructive energy policy. You'd have the American government sharply restrict the exploration of oil and natural gas in the name of the environment, so that America produces less energy. Why would you do that? Because global energy prices would rise and the U.S. would have to import more. Who would that benefit? Russia, a petrostate. Their economy is dependent on energy. But Trump, and this is weird behavior for a secret Russian agent, has done just the opposite of that. The United States, for the first time in my lifetime, is an energy exporter. In fact, it's the largest producer of oil and gas in the world. Is that good for Russia? No, it's not. Who's pushing the opposite? Oh, weirdly, it's the left. They're the ones pushing a Green New Deal that would have this country shutting down oil and gas wells across the nation. Someday we're going to look back in shame and confusion and wonder how so many supposedly smart people went completely off the deep end. That's the task for future historians. For now, it is time for some radical transparency. Last fall, the president ordered the declassification and release of Carter Page's FISA application. How did an American citizen, who clearly didn't act as an agent for Russia, have his phones tapped and his email read by the federal government? On what basis? We have a right to know that. We still don't. So the president ordered it. He also ordered the unredacted release of all text messages related to the Russia investigation sent by Jim Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, and Bruce Orr, the FBI officials. Well, instead of releasing them, the Department of Justice dithered for reasons that were never really clear. The president got distracted, and we've never seen those documents. It's obvious at this point that the reason for not releasing them isn't protecting American national security. They just leaked the information about the FBI investigation to the New York Times on Friday. Clearly, they have no problem leaking information when it helps them. They haven't been released because those documents might embarrass the FBI. This endless shadow investigation has caused vastly more harm to this country than any Russian Facebook ad. The president should order the declassification of all documents related to this. It's clearly an abuse of federal power. If you want to restore confidence in the federal government, bring in some sunlight. Tell the DOJ to do that. And if DOJ personnel refuse to do that, fire them and replace them with people who understand that they serve elected leaders, which is to say the electorate, which is to say voters, the people, and not the other way around. What can official Washington do to him now? Call him a Russian agent? Plan to impeach him? Too late. They already have.
Chairman Congressman Devin Nunes filed a $250 million lawsuit against Twitter in Virginia State Court, alleging the social media company negligently failed to remove defamatory and malicious tweets about the congressman and his family. Twitter is declining comment tonight, but here to talk about this lawsuit and much more, California Congressman Devin Nunes. You do have a high bar. We all need that because if you're a public figure, you need actual malice and what's known as a reckless disregard for the truth, or else I would sue people every hour of every day. But it's harder. It's not like in the case of the Covington High School kid. Tell us about the suit.
Yeah, so this is the first of many, Sean. And what we're doing here is we're actually going after Twitter first because they are the main proliferator and they spread this fake news and the slanderous news. So if you look at the lawsuit, I think people can go and look at it on Fox News. It's all there. But the case we're basically making is this was an orchestrated effort. So people were targeting me. There were anonymous accounts that were developed. And look, there's not supposed to be, these accounts aren't supposed to exist. Twitter says that they don't have accounts that do this. So, like I said, this is the first of many lawsuits that are coming, but there were several fake news accounts, whether it was regard to the Russia investigation or to me, and we have to hold all of these people accountable, because if we don't, our First Amendment rights are at stake here. This isn't 20 years ago, Sean. What's happening is that Twitter becomes the gaslighting for all of the news, and when they're regulating us, they're regulating what people can see on my tweets, which they've done, and then they're proliferating out things that they agree with the algorithms that they develop. They need to come clean. They're not a public square. They are content developers.
For
That's
example,
right. So if you remember, last summer they shadow banned me.
Well, and he denied that ever went on, and he said he wants to be fair, but your analysis has not shown that it is fair across the board, and that a lot of these social media sites are in fact using those algorithms, if you will, or their behaviors to advance one side, which would then be what, a political donation for Democrats?
Well, how is it that every day there's conservatives that are being banned? So, look, they don't want to call it shadow banning. That's fine. They can call it whatever they want to call it. But the fact of the matter is people could not see my tweets. Okay? So now, but if you move forward, if you get emails from Twitter, it's constantly left-wing stuff. It's constantly fake news stuff. So I think if Twitter wants to be in the public square and they don't want to be a content developer, they should come clean, give us all your algorithms. How is it possible that I can be attacked relentlessly hundreds of times a day by fake accounts that they claim in their terms of service should not be there? So I guarantee you, if I put something out that was sexually explicit or attacked someone personally, they would stop it. They would say this is a sensitive tweet. They never did that to any of the people that were coming after me or other conservatives. So, and this is more than just conservatives. Every American should care about this if they care about the First Amendment, because the press has definitely changed. You've said it numerous times. The press is dead. And that's why if we don't go and clean this up, and I actually said this on your show a few weeks ago, this is part of the continuing Russia investigation. We're not going to just let all these fake news stories that were written about this investigation, about this hoax, that were lies. We're going to challenge every single one of them in court. We're just starting with Twitter.
Well, the thing is it's so influential, and you're talking about so many, if not millions, billions of people, Facebook and some others, that it's incalculable how much that assists a narrative or a point of view. Let me ask you this, and as the former House Intel Committee chair, it's been frustrating as somebody who has been trying to get to the bottom of this whole Hillary getting a pass, FISA abuse, an attempt to undo a duly elected president, bludgeoning him with false Russian lies, etc. Now that we had Orr, Page, Strzok, the McCain aide, and this new information about Christopher Steele, and now that we know that everybody was warned in August, long before they leaked this information knowingly to the American people, and then used it as to quote your memo, the Grassley-Graham memo, as the bulk of information in the FISA applications, how much more is coming? Because I'm told this is only the beginning of what will be an avalanche of information that it has been hard to get out, but it's now coming.